Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Fly Tying the Angler's Art. I'm Dave Ingebrigtsen along with Leroy Hyatt. We think we've got some more neat patterns to show you tonight, and I hope some new techniques. We're going to do 3 flies tonight. We're going to do a fairly new fly that I've developed called the Chickatuka. We'll explain that name as we go.
I hope so.
And then we're going to tie a Stonefly Nymph and a little Midge dry that is, I guess, one of yours. Tell them what we're going to use in the Chickatuka, and then I'll kind of explain the name and the fly as we go.
Well, as I understand, this is relatively new on the market. What this is a soft hackle with Chickatuka. Chickaboo, I'm sorry, at the end. We'/We'll use oval silver tinsel for a ribbing. The body will be flat silver mylar. We use a standard 6/0 thread.
Tell us what hook size you're going to use, and then I'll explain a little bit about that Chickaboo.
Well, this is a 4X long. It's a size 6. No, it's a size 4. I'm sorry.
We can tie this for either bass or trout versions, and what we're tying tonight is a bass version, so it's a little bigger and a little bulkier. But I'll mention that this stuff called Chickaboo, it's a substitute for marabou, but it came from a chicken, so they call it Chickaboo. And it's tied on this genetically raised soft hackle, and the stuff is very slinky in the water. It has a lot of movement to it, and it really works very well. Well, when I came up with this way of tying what's basically a Matuka fly using Chickaboo, it seemed natural to call it a Chickatuka.
Chickatuka, okay.
So this is Chickatuka. Now this stuff is available in 15 or 20 different dyed, fluorescent and bright and natural colors. We happen to be using in this particular fly an olive dyed grizzly, but it could be any color.
Now what I've done, Dave, I tied in the oval silver, which we'll use for the rib. I'm going to tie in the flat mylar tinsel, and then I'm going to just run my thread forward. Now you can see this oval still up here, which will make for a smoother body.
Now I need to say too about the body, I tie these with a variety of bodies. I've got some great all black smallmouth patterns where I use a bright fluorescent laser wrap body or edge bright body, and you can use a variety of bodies. So again, with some of my flies we've been showing you on the show, it's not that you should slavishly imitate this specific color and pattern, but use it as a takeoff point to develop your own using the other colors, and that's just really cool with me.
Well, the variety would be endless, what you could do with it.
Well, especially when you see the wide range of colors that this is available in. Now, as we're getting ready to finish off that body, next we want to put on the wing. And when we tie the smaller trout versions, I end up using 2 wing feathers, matched wing feathers, 1 on each side. With the larger bass versions, we're going to use 4 matched feathers, 2 on each side, a pair on each side.
Now, I've already matched these up for length. I'm just going to go ahead and tie them in.
Now, one of the secrets to success, I think, on this fly is the fact that with a normal Matuka style, when you put the wings together, you have the concave sides together, so it's a slim profile. Here we're going to tie these feathers in with the convex sides together so they flare outward at the tips. So essentially the wing is going to extend beyond the hook and flare outwards, and due to the softness of the material, this is going to give you a real good action when the fly swims.
Now what I did when I tied this in, I matched them for length on each side, and then I'm going to, once I get that length down, then I'm going to strip that hackle off the bottom side. This is so that the ribbing can go between it and it will lay down flatter. There, they're tied in. They're flared away from each other.
Now, when I originally tied the bass version, I suggested not stripping the bottom fibers to make this a little bulkier, but you do have to fiddle with it a lot more to get it to look neat.
To tie down.
And to tie down neatly. And I think, especially for the camera here, we ought to strip them like you've done.
Okay. Now I'll just take a wrap of this. I'm pulling on the feather itself.
Yes, that's important, to keep it tight. And to stroke those top fibers forward and then wrap evenly. Another little trick is you're spiraling forward, but when you go over the hackle, you want to go through at approximately right angles to the hook. And that will keep things pulled together and keep it from twisting. And it looks like you're doing a nice job. The advantage of a Matuka style of tying, now a lot of people don't realize the Matuka is a style of tying. Originally there was a fly developed, I believe, in New Zealand and tied with feathers from a Matuka stork that was tied this way where you bound the wing down.
Oh, really?
And the reason for doing that, of course, it keeps the wing from twisting around the hook.
Uh-huh.
And in addition to that, it provides a nice silhouette for the fly. You'll see when we stroke things all together, it looks really good. But since that Matuka fly was developed, the style of tying has become very popular because it is so effective and it doesn't tangle in the hook, and it's now become a style of tying rather than just a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a wide variety of flies that can be tied Matuka style.
Now, some of those I bound down. I'm just going to go through and clip them off.
Sure.
They're on the bottom.
You can either clip them off or you can stroke them upward and pull them out of the way. But now look at from the top how those tails flare out.
You can see how the tails flare.
And
very nicely.
This material is so soft, when the fly is stripped, those are going to give it a lot of movement, and much more movement now as we wrap some chickaboo hackle on the front.
Now, I'll tie 2 of these chickaboo hackles in.
And they, when you do this, they should be fairly long. And again, tie the fly in a variety of sizes and a variety of colors. It's just unlimited color combinations. The hackle and the wings don't have to match. I usually do it. But again, it's a great fly for largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, trout, anything where you want a minnow-like imitation.
Now, as I tie this, I'm going to strip those hackles, the barbs, to the rear.
Stroke them back, yeah. And here's a fly you can crowd the eye a little bit, because after you tie the chickaboo down, then you'll stroke them to the back and wrap the head towards the back,
to give them
and that
slope.
will give them that slant, that backward slant. So you can crowd the head a little bit more than normal when you're tying them in. And here goes the second one.
And I'll zigzag this so it doesn't bind down too many fibers.
Good looking fly. And do I dare tell people you haven't tied this one before?
I have not. I've never seen the fly till tonight.
He's never seen it. I stood here and sat here and described it to him and told him all about it. And this is the first shot he's taking at it. And it says an awful lot about the kind of tyer Leroy Hyatt is.
Thank you.
When he can make it look like that the first time.
You're
out
a good
of the sheet.
instructor, Dave.
Well, I was going to say that's probably it. You had a great teacher, but I try to be humble, but it's difficult.
All right, what I've done now, I've stroked them to the rear. I'll put a whip finish on it.
Well, I got to say, Leroy, that's just as fine a looking chickaboo as you'll ever see. And again, I encourage you to all try your own. And look at it in the water before you fish it. It's just the slinkiest fly you ever saw.
It would collapse. And there's the Chickatuka. It's the soft hackle for the tail and back assembly. It's a silver, flat silver body. It's a ribbed with an oval silver tinsel, and then the chickaboo tied in the front for the hackle.
Next, we're going to tie a stonefly nymph that really is generally representative of all stoneflies, but we're going to tie it in a big dark size, which would be appropriate for a salmon fly.
Or any representative.
Or any representative, and you could vary the colors to represent other stoneflies. But why don't you tie it? Tell us what we're going to tie it with.
Okay, we'll use for the wing cases, we're going to use a dark turkey. For the antenna and the tail, it will be a very dark brown or black goose biot. I will weight the fly. This is just lead wire. We'll use a very dark ribbing. The body material is going to be a dark brown dubbing. I'll use a copper wire to rib the back section of the fly. And again, the standard 6/0 tying thread.
And we're going to tie this in large size, so it'll be on a number 4?
I have a 4X long number 4 hook. I'm going to go ahead and dress this shank, and then I'm going to weight the fly. Before I do that, I'll coat it with this rubber-based glue, and I want a pretty good layer of this glue on there to wrap that lead into.
Now, we need to say this: if you're using lead wire, this fly will be illegal in some places. where they don't want you for environmental purposes, like in Yellowstone Park, to use lead in a fly. So there are alternate means of weighting flies, and you should be aware of that, so you use the proper material to
They
weight
have
the
some
fly.
good lead substitutes out
Yeah.
there right now, some tin and different things like that.
I think tungsten.
There's a good lead wrap. Now, you could do it more. You could go all the way to the rear of the hook if you wanted. I'm just going to tie down good and hard now on this lead just so I know it's not going to slip. That glue will definitely help it.
You put another coat of glue on top of it?
I can put
I
another
usually
coat
do,
on,
yeah.
yes. Now, I'm going to go back to the front, and I'm going to tie in 2 of these goose biots for antenna.
Oh, tying the antenna
As long
first.
as I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and just tie them in.
Well, that's probably a good idea. I
Separated.
sometimes try to tie those in as the last thing under the head,
Well,
and
yeah.
it's probably more convenient to do it now when you've got a lot of space,
It's
and then
up
you can
here,
put the head
yeah.
already right over them.
Dub right over the top
They're
of it.
certainly not going to be in the way while you
No.
tie. They're small enough.
And again, the natural flare, I want it to go outward from each other. Want them about the same length. And then I'll go to the back.
And this is good because all of those wraps help bind that lead down,
Oh, it
too.
sure does.
Some people try to cover that whole body with thread even, but it's not necessary if you make a good number of wraps and then use some either head cement or some of that rubber-based cement on top of it.
Anything to help, yes.
And that also, since this is a bulky body, it'll help solidify and firm up that body.
Now I'll tie 2 more of the strip goose biots in.
Again,
For
we
the
ought to
tail
remind people what
section.
biots are. That when you have a wing quill, a flight quill from a goose or a duck or whatever, you have the main side of the feather with the main fibers, but the leading edge of the feather are these short, pointy little fibers called biots, B-I-O-T-S, biots. And that's what we're using now for the antenna and the tail.
And they come in a lot of different colors and dyed colors, natural. I use a lot of them white.
Now, what are you tying in now?
This is the V-rib or swan and days, lots of different things that it comes in. This
Basically
will be
a plastic type of ribbing.
the ribbing material. You know what, Dave? That's not right.
Hey, I wasn't going to say anything. You're a
I'm
professional.
going to undo that because I don't use swan and days on this. I use copper wire.
Well, I kind of wondered about that, but who might have say?
I don't know why I laid that out there.
I would never question a professional of your
I
standing in the
thank you.
community, but
All right, now I've got some stripped wire. We'll do this right this time. I'll lay the wire in there. What this is just electrical wire that I've pulled the insulation off of. And now we'll go with some dubbing. And I'll try to do this as fast as I can. There's a lot of real repetitious work with this fly, but it makes a very impressionistic fly.
well, and when it's so big and bulky, we've got so much talking to do to try to sound
Several,
intelligent, and that
yes.
sometimes gets to be a real chore here. We got to sit and sound
I'm
too
going to wrap
intelligent.
behind that ribbing again, like I always do, and then I'll start forward. Now, with that lead wire there, I've already got somewhat of a natural bulk to start
Sure.
building that taper.
You know, a lot of people may not have seen all the shows. We probably ought to tell them a little bit more about why you wrap behind the rib. What he's doing is, in order to lock that rib into place and keep it from sliding off the body, he'll make his first turn or two of the body material behind the ribbing. Then he'll come in front of the ribbing and wrap the rest of the body, and now that rib actually starts in the body a little ways, and there's no way it's going to slide off the back of the hook.
Locked in place.
A very good idea. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this, and then we'll get the first wing case in.
Okay. That's got a nice taper to it, and it's
Very
with
nice
that
taper.
weighting under there. It's a good solid body, and still it's fuzzy and shaggy, which I think is important.
Now, I've prepared 2 of these wing cases already. It will have 3, but I'll go ahead and cut this one so at least everyone can see what we're doing. I'm going to cut that off square. Then we're going to fold it right in half. The open side is away from me on the fold. I'll stick my scissors in, if I can get it straight, and just cut cut the tip off. What that does, it will make an absolute V in there just to make a nice little wing pad.
And you know, that's a neat trick, because I can remember when I first started doing that, I'd try to cut the V in the flat feather, and I could never get them even.
Okay,
but
sure.
by folding it and making one cut, you've automatically got
It's
your
there
V.
already.
Now,
You bet.
now, I know this is not your pattern, so I don't feel too bad complaining, but you know, a natural stonefly nymph has two wings, two pair of wings,
pads.
and therefore has two wing pads or two wing cases. Why in the world this artificial has got three wing cases, I have no idea.
I don't know either, but
But it is what the pattern calls for.
And it looks nice. I don't think there's any, yeah.
I tell you, if a fish comes up and complains because you've got one too many cases, you write to us and we will give you your money back.
Now here I go with the rib. I not only tied in the wrong rib to start with, I forgot to run it up. So I can just lift this wing pad out of the way and come right on up with it, because a stonefly does have ribbing to it. Now, I'm not going to rib.
Notice here, were you counter wrapping that or wrapping
I
it?
didn't. No, I did not counter wrap. I am not going to rib the thorax area of this, so I'll stop the ribbing right there. I just want to build a little bit behind that wing case. Now I'm ready for the next wing case, and like I said, I've already got a couple of them prepared. So I'll just lay it on there, and you can see it's slightly shorter than the other one. I'll tie it in place.
No, that's a good point. You want one to be ahead of the next one, because that's what they naturally are on the real bug.
And then we'll do a little bit more dubbing. This is a neat fly. It looks so realistic in the water.
Yeah.
This brown, dark brown dubbing, when it gets wet, it looks a whole lot darker.
I'm surprised that you don't use any legs on it. There's no hackle at all.
There's no hackle legs on it at all.
Which is a little bit unusual, but of course you don't really need those.
Impressionistic, that's basically what it is.
Stoneflies do have big, fairly prominent, strong legs, because that's what they use to climb around the rocks in fast water with. But all I can say is I'm darn glad that most trout at least don't count. Because to me it's absolutely ridiculous to put 3 wing cases on a stonefly nymph, but who knows.
All right. I'm not even going to put any more dubbing on there. I'll just go ahead and build a head here, whip finish it. Head's a little bit bigger than normal, a little bit longer, will not hurt a thing.
Well, of course, again, you know, the natural stonefly is rather bulky. And if people should look at that view right now to see the proportions, because many people put the wing cases on nymphs way too far forward.
Yes.
And on a stonefly like this, the first wing case really is about halfway back.
And that's about where it is.
And I say this from experience, because before I really started seeing bugs and moved west and saw the big salmon flies and looked at the pictures critically, I tied these dinky little wing cases way up in front. And that's not the way the natural looks.
No, it's definitely.
So if you're on the stream and see nymph cases along the river, take a good look at the proportions and the colorations and so on. Or at least look in books to look at the pictures that are there.
Well, there's a stonefly nymph. Does have really good proportions to it. Has the brown goose biot for the tail and antenna, dark brown dubbing, copper rib, and dark brown wing cases.
You know, it seems like lately we've been going from the ridiculous to the sublime. We just tied a ridiculously large stonefly nymph on a number 4 4X long hook. Now we're going to go to the other extreme and tie a very tiny dry fly on a number 18 hook. And it's going to be an extremely complicated fly. It's called the black midge. And do you want to tell us why it's called the black midge?
Because it's all black. The only material we use in this fly is black ostrich. One stem. I'll use the standard dry fly thread.
Well, that is a good name for the fly.
That's an excellent name. Now what I'm going to do is just take one fiber out of this hurl, or out of this
ostrich hurl
plume, and then I'm going to take a pencil eraser, and I'm just going to erase part of that hurl off of that stem. And any plain old pencil eraser will work.
We should say for viewers, though, that is a number 2 pencil you're using.
That could be very
I think
critical.
it is a number 2, yeah.
Okay, I got to playing with this pattern on a backpacking trip. The fish right at night in a little lake would come up and just sip these little guys like crazy, just in the film. So I started playing with this, and this is what I came up with. I don't know if it's mine or I saw it someplace else. But
now
it's,
that will float flush in the surface film.
Yes.
When you're fishing it, do you put any kind of floating on your leader to keep it up near the surface?
Grease the leader if you want. I've also tied this fly with little black hackle fibers for the tail. You can get about as exotic with it as you want, but it's an extremely simple fly. I wanted to put in just a little bit of this rubber base because when I wrap that stem into it, then that's going to become the body material. Might be a little long. This is a guesstimate here of how much, that may still be a little long, of how much body you actually need with it. Now I'm going to come forward. The stem is now becoming the hackle, or the body. You can't hardly see that. It does show a little bit of segmentation in it. And now here comes,
too.
Okay, now here comes the hackle. And again, like I said, it will not float high in the water. It will stay just in the film. But every time I have fished this fly in that little lake, it has just produced right at night for me just really well. Clip it off. Like I said, you could put black hackle fiber tails on it, which would also help float the fly a little higher. But that marabou, it will not support the fly by any means. But if you grease the leader and...
but it'll give a nice little movement, too.
It does. It moves very well.
You know, I've seen that exact same fly, except it was tied on a number 14 hook, and they used a dub body and orange tail, and it had a white wing, and then a collar of grizzly.
Oh, really?
It was the same fly.
Huh.
You know,
I see.
Obviously that's a joke, but I have had people exactly do that to me, telling me, would you tie me such and such a fly? It's just exactly like that one, except it has. And by the time they're done, they've described a totally different fly. Well, that's a neat fly. I'm sure it'd be effective, and I like the part that ostrich hurl will give you a little movement, because a lot of the little pupae in the surface, they do have that little movement to it.
You bet. Well, that's the black midge, as I call it. Nothing more than one stem of black ostrich. Erase part of the hurl off. That stem becomes the body. The hurl becomes the hackle.
You know, I think today's show has been a good example of the variability in patterns. A lot of people get into slavishly tying and replicating patterns. What we've done today is we've shown them 3 flies that can be very versatile. We started with the Chickatukas, which can be tied large and bulky for bass or smaller for trout, but in a range of colors, different body sizes, different feather sizes to adjust to your needs. The Stonefly Nymph, the same thing. It can be tied in various sizes and colors to represent a variety of stoneflies. And then we tied the little black midge, but it could have been a creamy midge, it could have been an olive midge, it could have been almost anything. So don't think that you always have to just slavishly follow a given pattern. If you have a reason to change it to match the natural, do it. And use these styles and these techniques to create better flies to better help you meet the situation you're in.
And don't be afraid to try new colors.
Right. Now, don't go way off base if you're trying to imitate a natural, but use the techniques and the styles to tie something that's going to better prepare you to catch fish in your area. So that'll do it for another week, and we thank you for tuning in, and we hope you tune in for our next show, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Have a good week, and so long.
Dave and Leroy have produced a new 90-minute video on fly tying techniques. To order a copy, call the number on your screen. These tips are only $28.95 plus $3.95 shipping and handling. Please have your credit card ready and call 1-800-883-0124 to order fly tying techniques. You can also order the programs in this series. There are 3 programs on each 90-minute tape for $22.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-800-883-0124 and order your fly tying videos or the Techniques tape.